Hi, welcome to the channel. My name is Dylan. Man, 2019 was a year, huh? Everyone's already done their year-end wrap-ups. Music channels have best songs or best albums, movie channels have the best movies. But all I did this year was watch YouTube videos. So here are 19 of my favorite videos of the year. This is a pretty arbitrary list. It's just things that I saw that I thought were really great and that I want other people to see. I'm sticking to mostly video essayists who are in sort of my same genre. So as much as I loved Isaiah's pacifist run of Red Dead Redemption 2, it didn't make the cut, unfortunately. I'm also sticking to mostly small to mid-sized channels, because you guys already know the big ones and you have your own favorite videos, though there are some exceptions to both of those rules. Also, most of these are from the second half of the year because that's when I was paying more attention to YouTube, go figure. I'm sure there's some great ones that I missed, so feel free to leave your own suggestions in the comments. The best video I saw this year was Shannon Strucci's Fake Friends Part 2, Parasocial Hell, but as of recording it's been taken down by UMG and it's not available to watch at the moment, so I can't really recommend it to you. But definitely go catch part 1 of that series. There are a lot of videos on this website about parasocial relationships, but these are the best ones. This isn't going to be a ranking because some of these people are my friends. I've decided to list them starting with the smaller channels and working upwards, so the smaller channels are more likely to get new viewers. I've made a playlist if you want to follow along, check the description for that, but some of them do get pretty heavy, especially with regards to dysphoria, suicide, and sexual assault. I'll try to keep this video that you're currently watching as easy to swallow as possible, but if you are going to follow along, be diligent about the content warnings. Let's get into it!
And deriders came to call this move Rakirovka, Russian for a chess move known as castling. And castling is basically this. If you move your king 2 spaces in any direction, the rook can jump over the king, and that's considered one move. So in a single move, a less important piece is sent out to face the public, while the real power is hidden in the background.
Queer POTUS is my favorite tiny channel, and Johnny deserves to be bigger. At first glance, they appeared to just be a history channel focused on American presidents, but there is a method here. American political discourse is so dominated by the office of the presidency, especially right now. There's a lot of talk about what exactly the president is and is not allowed to do. Every video on the Queer POTUS channel is subtly or not so subtly calling out Donald Trump. This one is about term limits, since Trump seems to have a more than passing interest in serving more than 2 terms. It's a well-researched breakdown of the history of the 22nd Amendment, and they unravel a terrifying loophole in the Constitution in the process.
Ugh, fucking disgusting. Ben Shapiro tweeted something racist again.
Why do you follow him?
I don't, but I follow people who follow him to screenshot his tweets to dunk on him, and then the people I follow like the dunking tweets, and since on Twitter like is stronger verbiage than retweet, according to Twitter's algorithm at least, I'm forced to read and consider all of these fucking bullshit-ass takes.
You, still don't have to read them if it upsets you.
I like being upset.
No, you don't. You were just complaining about how you hate feeling bad.
My mind is a tumultuous paradox of self-validating pain.
You're just addicted to Twitter.
How do I explain a serious slump? Tony is an anime abridger, and this video is a kind of peek behind the curtain of their normal work. It takes serious comedy, voiceover, editing, project management skills, plus a level of discipline to make art like this. And stretching your abilities like that can really get to you, especially with a small audience and a seemingly unreachable goal of financial independence. The result is a serious slump. A 48-minute art piece about finding your creative voice, mental illness, loneliness, gender dysphoria, financial woes, and the crushing reality of being 23 and trying to discover on your own what kind of adult you want to be. This is a real masterpiece, and there is nothing else like it on YouTube.
You're always bad at not 20. No, you were never good at knots. Why, there's a difference. Oh, there's a difference, alright. I'm the kid your parents mourn. What was it your mum said? Oh yeah.
I feel like I've lost my little boy, and every time I see you, I'm just reminded that I'll never get to see him again.
Alice has been doing great work this year on her Trans 101 series, but I can't get enough of long-form art pieces made by trans people about their dysphoria, so here we are. The Tale of Frank and Alice is a gut-wrenchingly personal and vulnerable story about a trans woman trying to maintain her dignity and sense of self-worth in a world that constantly berates her for existing. Literally tied up and trapped by the ghost of her former self who tortures her with self-hatred. Needless to say, it's a bit of a tough watch, but y'all know how much I like to suffer. By the end of the video, Alice has left us with hopeful thoughts. That voice in your head isn't the real you. And perhaps gender dysphoria is less a disease of the brain than it is a response to a dangerous and hateful world. You are not broken. The world just needs to get over itself and accept you for who you are.
You can interpret it that way, and when you do, it can feel so joyous, just so pure. It even feels nostalgic, reminiscent of feelings that were only known to us as children. But examining it more closely, you start to notice that there is uncertainty. There's anxiety. I guess that this must be the place.
Check it out, a list within a list. This is a really good list though. Skelly is a super dope YouTuber whose videos defy genre, and I really respect them for just making videos about whatever they want. Their slightly spooky vaporwave aesthetic and gentle voice makes every video or live stream just a nice experience. Making list videos is really hard, and so is talking about music. This is a top 10 list with a purpose. A mood playlist with a commentary track. The songs chosen are great, and Skelly's descriptions are really beautiful and evocative. When you need a breather, look here.
So many of these types of games, like The Sims or SimCity, are very explicitly capitalist in how they work. But the method of economic and political organization within Dwarf Fortress is especially unusual in that regard, because in practice, it looks suspiciously like anarcho-communism.
The first Huntress X Thompson video I saw was her one on Kiki's Delivery Service and the Neon Demon, which is really excellent and kind of the peak of feminist media analysis. Her whole channel is great, but I gotta give it to this one. I love builder games, but Dwarf Fortress has always been too impenetrable for me. This was the first video I saw that really broke down what Dwarf Fortress is, and more importantly, what's so special and compelling about it in a way I could understand. Perhaps more importantly, it also breaks down anarcho-communism in a way I can understand, and does so well it changed the way I think about work, leisure time, and communal living. If you're well-read on anarcho-communism, this might be a bit basic for you, but you'll still probably enjoy it.
It's okay to have been the one who was having fun, and it's okay to be bummed out that that fun's over. But find somebody else to vent that shit to later. Right now, you say, cool, I get it, let's go. Right now, your job is to care for this person who you've brought into this vulnerable situation with you, who is probably emotional and embarrassed and out of sorts and feeling a lot of unspoken pressure to have fun, because this is the kind of thing that adults do for fun, and adults know what they are getting into, and adults do not lose their shit for no reason when they do mature adult things that they have consented to doing with other mature consenting adults. Hey, does anybody else feel like we're not really talking about haunted houses anymore?
Laura Crone is fucking incredible, and this video is literally her best work. This one in particular really inspired me to make the men's gynecology video. Laura's takes are always incredibly nuanced, and she takes great pains not to condemn. Even in this video, which is the rawest and most artfully constructed piece I have ever seen about sexual assault and rape. And she still somehow finds time for comedy. It centers a haunted house metaphor to discuss why someone might bail out of an experience that they initially agreed to. And she tells extremely personal stories to supplement, which I know how patronizing it can be to call something like this bravery, but I have a vagina, and some side effects of testosterone make it hard to use. I've also had painful and unpleasant sexual experiences, and I can't imagine having the courage to make a YouTube video about them. If you can stomach it, this is a must-watch.
What if I also told you that I identified as a non-binary guy? But that's not logical.
Things non-binary people can do. Call themselves men/women. No, that makes absolutely no sense.
How does it make sense? You see, the thing is, my gender identity isn't really up to par with Calvin's standards. That's fine, I can deal with that. I guess his opinions don't really take into account the complexities of human experience. It's weird, isn't it, how a 19-year-old on YouTube can be wrong.
Corvidae and Boyform are like this. We're both transmasculine leftist content creators, though Corvs is a lot more open about their politics than I am. Our channels are about the same size. We started at basically the same time. We met earlier this year at just the right time when we were both just starting out. And not to be gay about it, but we kind of just held hands and jumped together. I love this guy. If you're watching my channel, you should be watching Corvidae. They've gotten a lot of rightful praise for their takes on trans YouTube drama, but their channel talks about a lot of different trans-related things. I decided to showcase this video about the FTM Blair White Calvin Gara because it's a really well-made video. What Corvidae is best at is explaining why something is a problem in a way that really stares into your soul and leaves you feeling impassioned about the problem. This video is a really good example of that, and it's all in the pacing.
So despite several decades of government telling people that drugs are bad, drugs will kill you, and drugs aren't good anyway, it hasn't really worked. People still take drugs for all sorts of reasons. And there's also the fact that a lot of people use narcotics for the same reason that a lot of people use alcohol. It's fun, it's sometimes a social experience, but also sometimes as a way to cope. A lot of people simply do not have the opportunity to have the sort of social escape from society that sometimes you need. And so drugs can fill that avenue. So some people take drugs to cope.
That one's age-restricted. This one's age-restricted. Mia Mulder has had a really great year, and it was hard to pick one video of hers to showcase, but, I don't know, something about the drugs video. Yeah, I can't remember why I picked this one. This is the most thorough and in-depth video on drug laws I have ever seen. And she needs every second of the 38-minute runtime because this topic is so much more complicated than just legalize it. How do we define narcotics? What is the war on drugs and how is it tied to political violence against marginalized groups? What's the difference between prohibition and harm reduction? How can we regulate recreational use of prescription opioids? Why do people choose to do drugs even when they know it's harmful? This video answers or at least discusses all of these questions and more.
A lot of YouTubers, especially, will make a side business of streaming their video game time. And this is a way to justify relaxing and enjoying a video game is by turning it into work. And I feel this all the time where unless I have put something into the context of I can make a video about this, I feel like I am not allowed to engage in it.
Sarah Zedig is probably the creator I would say I'm most influenced by, and the reason for that is her video from 2018 called A Video About Transitioning. That video came into my life very early in my own transition, and it really stuck with me because I'd been consuming a lot of intermediate level trans content that went into a lot of queer theory and trans politics. But what's so special about A Video About Transitioning is that it talks about the feelings and thoughts that a trans person can experience that are invisible in a social context. The dark feelings that you aren't supposed to take outside of therapy, that a change in socio-political opinion won't necessarily fix. That video, more than any other, inspired my channel. The Labor of Art uses A Video About Transitioning as a case study of Sarah's creative process. I've always considered myself more of an artist than an activist or a researcher. I went to school for art, I've been making art my whole life, so this one is just as special to me. This is a video by a creator for creators about creating, and I always come back to it when I worry I'm not making effective use of my time.
To the Connors, money is always a major concern. Not for luxuries or greed, but to pay for the basics of what they need to survive. The struggle of holding the family together has real consequences too, as Roseanne and Dan constantly argue from gentle teasing to full-on fights.
And you think everything gets done by some wonderful wizard. Oh, poof, the laundry's folded. Poof, dinner's on the table.
You want me to fix dinner? I'll fix dinner.
I'm cheating a bit because this one is a two-parter. I can't believe how much work and research consistently goes into Jose's videos. They're really expertly made. This two-part series goes into excruciating detail on 12 seasons of television, and not just the text of the show, but the drama going on behind the scenes with the production. I was only passingly familiar with the show Roseanne before watching these videos, but the story told by the show itself and the story of its production, hiatus, and revival is super interesting for anyone who has a stake in class politics. How can a show about a low-income working-class family have so much to say about inequality and the inadequacy of social programs designed to help them, while all the while being controlled by the iron grip of Roseanne Barr, who has grown into a conservative free speech hero? If you have the time and are as into sitcoms as I am, these videos are well worth your 2 hours. Side note, Darlene has serious trans vibes. Okay, next video.
That's why I think, more so than any other comic book character, the fan reaction to a bad or unpopular depiction of Superman is usually, well, that's not my Superman. My Superman wouldn't be like that. He should wear little underpants.
So I'm like really into Superman, like extremely into Superman. Like, look at all these comics I have. There's more. I've got these. I've read all of these. Here's the first 2 movies. Here's a box set of the first 5 movies. Here's the Donner cut on Blu-ray. Superman is my favorite superhero, and I've spent hundreds of hours of my life trying to explain the appeal to people who think he's boring and overpowered. Some of that time is on this very channel. I am starving for good Superman takes, and this one is top tier. When I uphold Superman as a pillar of masculine strength, the conversation always ends up turning into a discussion of whether men need to be physically strong in order to be good men. But there's more to strength than being more powerful than a locomotive. Maybe a better word is conviction or compassion. When you draw the strength card in tarot, you are not the lion, you are the woman taming it. I was supposed to be plugging the video, but I got a little off track. This video really lights up the part of my brain that believes a man can fly. Good work, Comrade Slime.
Okay, so you probably remember this game being pretty fun. You got 8,000 life points, and so does your opponent, and whoever kills the other first wins. Simple, right? Well, go fuck yourself, because now the game is miserable, angry, and fucking sucks. And by that I mean it's competitive, and by that I mean it's fast. The game is fast.
Hey, wait. It's only turn 2. How did you win?
Because I'm great at this kid's game.
May and I have known each other for a long time. Most of her channel is about horror movies, and I'm just too much of a soft boy. I get freaked out by the spooky stuff. So this video about a card game is more up my alley. But if you're into the horror genre at all, and you're not already subscribed to Nick's Fears, or for that matter, her wife Azrael Erickson, like, what are you doing? This was May's triumphant return to video essays after a long period of unscripted content, and it's just a delight to watch. Who doesn't want to spend 20 minutes watching 2 goth ladies have fun playing a ridiculously convoluted card game, and in the process reveal that it's kind of a wasteful capitalist scam? The thing is, are games really wasteful if they bring joy and fun to your life? Well, maybe, but this video is more about nostalgia than anything else.
So now I think it's high time we ask ourselves, what separates a hypermasculine hero like Mike Terry from 2 hypermasculine villains like Luke and the Operative? All 3 of them are strong and self-assured. They're all powerful fighters. Both Terry and the Operative are thoughtful, soft-spoken, and fully capable of backing down from a fight if they feel it's not absolutely necessary. So what makes 2 of them bad guys and 1 of them a good guy? What determines their moral alignment? I have racked my brain over this, and I can really only think of one thing. You ready? Terry doesn't want to control anyone.
There were a lot of videos about men and masculinity this year as we try to define male as its own gender rather than as the default. I take credit for this, you're welcome. I really believe that most of our understanding of gender comes from media, and for the last century that has been dominantly movies. Gendered presentation, gendered behavior, gendered social roles, tropes, stories are taught to us by media. So this is the video on masculinity that I was waiting for. This video looks specifically at the characterization of the archetypically masculine through the lens of characters played by Chiwetel Ejiofor. How exciting. How you feel about the last part of the video kind of depends on how you feel about kinky boots. But ultimately, I like the conclusions he comes to about the heroic masculine versus the villainous masculine, and in the end paints a very positive image of masculinity and its fluid nature. It's nice, I like it.
This office, like that nightclub, feels totally genuine. But it's not. Not really. You get used to the fact that under the sheen of cubicles and stacks of paper and gray carpeted floor, this place too is designed for violence.
It has been amazing watching Jacob Geller's channel grow this year. He's really a gem. It's a combination of his poetic writing and presentation style and his unique niche, which is combining an architecture education with video games and social science. You don't just leave a Jacob Geller video feeling like you've learned something, you feel like you understand the world better. Designed for Violence is one of his best, and will really strike a chord with anyone who had lockdown drills in school. He compares game design in cover shooters to schools designed with active shooters or violent protest in mind. I've been on the campus at UT Austin, and it's genuinely unnerving that you can see the tower from anywhere on campus. Another great one of his in a similar vein is The Cultural Legacy of the Headshot, but that one is pretty rough and it's a little more difficult to recommend. Check this one out for sure.
I mean, I'm not going to say that the YouTube Creator Academy is some useless resource. I'm sure that it offers some good tips, but it's also not some silver bullet, right? And I believe completely that Evrana has gone through the whole thing because it is not and can never be what makes a channel do well. But this guy can't live with that. There must be a difference between Evrana and himself, even if that difference is actively painful, because the alternative, that there are no tangible rules, that no creator is guaranteed success on this platform, that no lesson can reliably help you, is too hard to live with.
When the YouTube historians write about us, everything will be about the PewDiePies and the Shane Dawsons, and maybe even the ContraPoints. But if you've gotten this far, you know that small YouTube channels have a lot of potential to be really great and really interesting. Maybe you're a small YouTuber yourself, or you dipped your toes in the water but it never went anywhere. This is a fascinating piece on one small YouTuber and the small YouTube subreddit culture of content creators trying to win the favor of the almighty algorithm. If they could just figure out what the magical problem is with their work that they need to solve. It's definitely something I resonate with, and if you want to see a different perspective on trying to make it as a content creator, check this one out.
Democrats think they're going to take the money from billionaires and spread it around. Give it to a bunch of poor people so they can go to college, and everyone gets a degree, and everyone gets a good job, and healthcare is free, and minimum wage is $80 an hour, and everyone's saving lots of money. So what then? Everyone's rich. Everyone works in tech, everyone moves to New York and California, and nobody's a billionaire, and nobody's broke, and everyone's great at their job because all they needed was the right opportunity, and no one's better than anyone at anything. It's a fantasy, and we shouldn't have to pay you to LARP it. You think you can make everyone the same, but you can't. There's always a bigger fish.
You did it! You boiled conservatism down to its bare essentials. This is basically a blanket recommendation for the whole AltRight Playbook series, which by this point has become a more broad look at political science through the lens of anti-fascism. My favorite episode this year was Always a Bigger Fish, because I think it's the one I learned the most from. I'm definitely familiar with the liberal stumbling blocks he describes as someone who was raised liberal but also surrounded by conservatives. This one is about the core difference between the right and the left, centering on the question, how should a society govern itself? It also goes into how the right's answer to that question is a lot easier for fascism to map onto. It's a great video, but y'all probably already know.
Almost a decade ago, I bicycled across the United States from East Coast to West by myself. No smartphone, no GPS, just a bunch of paper maps and a compass and a sunset that always points west. Another asset along the way was a website called warmshowers.org, a social network for bicycling tourists where families or campgrounds offer lodging for the night. So for 2.5 months, every other day, I would depend on the help of strangers to make it through the next couple days, carrying about 60 pounds of water jugs, dry food, repair parts, and camping equipment for 100 or so miles of bicycling, using human-powered transportation fueled mostly by Gatorade and trail mix. So, that whole experience might have a thing or two to do with why I ended up loving Death Stranding.
I haven't even played Death Stranding, or any Kojima game. This video is just that good. Super Bunny Hop is one of the big boys in the world of video essays about games. Since Death Stranding came out, I've seen a lot of reviewers gripe about how slow the pacing is, and uttering that phrase that makes me shrivel up like a cooked spinach leaf. Walking simulator. But I had a suspicion it was because these people are professional game reviewers. The nature of their job doesn't allow for putting 40 hours into a game before delivering your opinion, and Death Stranding kind of requires that. This video is a standout in Super Bunny Hop's library because of how well his personal experience lines up with the core mechanics of the game. What could possibly be fun about walking from east to west all day? Why don't you ask someone who did a tour of the continental United States on a bicycle? Imagine seeing what's so fun about a trip like that without actually having to make the physical journey, and you've got a really compelling argument to play Death Stranding.
It has safety warnings and directions in this section and a legal disclaimer, and all 3 are about anal fissures. It can itch and cause pain. Why is this here?
And then there's spider reviews. I don't know what to tell you. This is just one of the funniest videos I've ever seen in my life. Whenever I need to unwind, this is the video I just want to lose my shit to. Trust me on this one.
You got any idea what they do to eggs in San Ricardo prison? It ain't over easy.
Notice how these jokes are all designed to demean, humiliate, or emasculate a male character for being the victim, or potential victim of sexual violence.
Man, this is really the one I'm ending on? That's rough. But this is a really stellar video from earlier in the year about a disturbingly ubiquitous comedy trope that is revealing of the ways masculinity is portrayed in movies and television, and thusly the way we view real men in our society. By the end of the video, you've heard the exact same prison rape joke so many times, you'll never be able to take a comedian who writes them seriously when they talk about pushing the envelope. Because most of this video touches on the implication that sexual assault is part of a just punishment for male prisoners, it's really worth checking out his follow-up video on The Shawshank Redemption. Every video on this channel is solid gold. Take your time making your videos, Pop Culture Detective, but I sure do miss you when you're gone. And there you have it. I hope you watch the ones you haven't seen and refresh yourself on the ones you did see. I think you'll like them. Feel free to give shoutouts to your own favorites down in the comments. Maybe take a look at some of my videos since you're here, whatever, I don't know. I hope you don't mind we're doing something a little different this month. I'll be back to my normal content soon. In the meantime, you can follow me on my Twitter at InBoyForm or support me on Patreon at patreon.com/boyform. And now it's time to thank my patrons. Why don't you come with me? Ugh. Special thanks to AA Ron Fushi, Avon, Brent Stanfield, Dr. Crackshoe, Fiona Wallace, Gaius Gallus, Isabella Lamar, Jack C., Jack Jacobs, Jacqueline Bristow, Joala, Jay Miley, Jane the Human, Jonathan Becker, Len Schweizer, Morndogs, Quinn Hart, Sorry, Strong Jess, and Stuntman for pledging $5 or more. Thank you all so much. I love making these videos. Here's to a great 2020. I will see you next time.